Hi, I'm Ellie Cowan, Director of Engagement here at Preservation Maryland, and this is Nick Redding, our Executive Director. Nick, we got some bad news yesterday. The House of Representatives released their tax reform bill. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what was in there?
Yeah, so we've been expecting this bill for quite some time, and it came out yesterday. It was delayed by a day, but we got it. And unfortunately, what we found in that bill is that the House Ways and Means Committee, under the leadership of Chairman Brady, have decided to try and eliminate the federal historic tax credit program. So for the first time in 30-odd years, the first step has been made to try and eradicate one of the most critical community redevelopment and preservation tax credit programs that we have.
So it's an incredibly important program. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it's accomplished over the years?
Right. I mean, the program, there aren't superlatives available to express how powerful this program has been all across the country. So from Baltimore to Boise, you can find an example of how this program has impacted community redevelopment and historic preservation. But basically the way it works is it's a 20% tax credit. So for, let's say, $1 million project, you can get a 20% tax credit, so $200,000. But that $200,000 credit has a powerful ability to attract private investment. So we know for every $1 the federal government puts in, there are $4 in private investment that then go into those deals. And so the economic impact of a $1 million project, let's say, is over $2 million of economic impact. So one of the phenomenal things, and there's a lot, we could spend all day talking about this, but one of the phenomenal things about this program, and we would love to find an example of another one like it out there, but this is a good example. It actually pays more back to the federal treasury than it costs the federal government.
It pays for itself.
So for every $1 the federal government puts into this program, it gets $1.20 back. And so it's actually not even just a growth program. It's not only a program that is saving historic places and redeveloping communities and attracting private investment, but the federal government is actually making money off of it.
Wow. So if we were to lose it, what would historic preservation look like after that?
Right. Well, Preservation Maryland has a weekly podcast called PreserveCast, and we just had Donovan Ripkema on, who is probably one of the finest preservation economists in the nation, and by that matter, for the world. And Donovan said that, first and foremost, what it'll do is it will drive investment from our urban and rural cores out to new build construction, thereby increasing sprawl. And we know here in Maryland, for example, for every $1 million that goes into the tax credit program, about 5.5 acres of rural green space are saved. So incentivizes redevelopment rather than going out to sprawl. So we'll probably begin to sprawl more. But worse yet is that not only are we going to lose historic structures, but the value potentially of our historic structures in communities like a Baltimore, a Frederick, or anywhere else for that matter, could begin to lose value. And remember, when properties lose value, property taxes then go down, and our government has less money to pay for things. So schools and police officers and ambulances and all the things that we depend on in our modern society fall apart when we lose this critical piece. And so for a program that actually makes money for the federal government and supports and provides all of these things, we think it's imperative that we don't lose this credit.
And I know that the federal tax credit is often paired with the state historic tax credit. Many states, including Maryland, are lucky enough to have a state historic tax credit. What would happen to those programs, since I know that the federal credit has been used to really move those projects forward? Yeah,
it's going to be a difficult situation for programs like that. A lot of the state projects that happen on an annual basis, and Maryland just announced a whole new host of them, are dependent on having both the federal and the state involved. And it's not some type of get-rich-quick scheme for the developer. Really, it's the difference between the project moving forward and it not moving forward. So it'll have a cascading effect both throughout state, local finances. It's going to be pretty bad.
Well, all of this is really worrisome, but it's not the end of the line. There is time left for us to really make an impact with our advocacy. You want to tell everybody out there what it is that we can do?
Sure. So the good news, as Ellie says, is this is not the end. And we have an opportunity right now to not only save the credit, but also really underscore the value of historic preservation and community redevelopment to our members of Congress. So this is the House's first version of this bill, very likely going to be updates and amendments to it. And so it's imperative that you contact your members of Congress, even if you come from a district where your member of Congress has been supportive. It's important that they continue to hear from you and that you ask them to use their voice in Congress to contact members of the House Ways and Means Committee and also members of that committee on the Senate side to make sure that they're hearing that the historic tax credit has to be put in or has to stay in. So there's going to be a Senate bill, then they'll have to reconcile. We're a long way from the end of this, and we can't become full of despair. We have to stay sort of agitated and fired up to try and save this program because the future of preservation, the future of community development, throw history out the window for a second. If you just care about communities, then you should be concerned about this credit. And so the good news is that we have an opportunity. So we have a link here in this Facebook post that will allow you to click on, and you can go there and directly send your member of Congress a message and let them know how much this matters to you, or you can pick up the phone and call them.
And so, we really do need your help to preserve the historic tax credit. Without your involvement, we're not going to be able to save this. So, like Nick says, we need you to activate and raise your voice. So thank you so much, and we'll keep you updated on any new developments.